Building consumer skills for our older students. Although really this is a great skill for anybody. I think hopefully you will learn some information today that prepares you to be the best consumer you can be. And a little bit of housekeeping. As we mentioned before, please do sign in with your name and school or district in the chat so we can get you your credit for your clock hours. We'll make sure these slides and resources are available to you after the presentation in PD Enroller. And in addition, any of the lessons that we talk about today will be uploaded in PowerPoint form if you would like to use them in the classroom. You'll also be receiving an email where you will rate and evaluate this training through PD Enroller in order to receive those clock hours. And we do have interactive activities planned today. So if you are able, please do be near your keyboard, your mouse if possible, and share your answers and ideas in the chat. And as always, we will start today with a land acknowledgement. I am joining you from Spokane, Washington. And so I will be acknowledging the lands that I am currently on. But this map, as you can see, is all of Washington from native.land-land.ca. And FEP wishes to recognize the Indigenous peoples who have been dispossessed and displaced from their ancestral and spiritual homes and the taking of their land through colonization. Acknowledge that I am joining you from the unceded lands of the Spokane people, and the Spokane's ancestors inhabited much of Northeast Washington, which consisted of approximately 3 million acres. And these lands were once the major trading center for the Spokanes as they shared this place and welcomed other area tribes through their relations, history, trade, and ceremony. Thank you. All right, so welcome. My name is Amy Cleaver. I'll start with some of the introductions here. And I currently serve as the K-8 program supervisor at the Financial Education Public-Private Partnership. I was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest and have completed the majority of my education here, most recently with my Master's of Education at Eastern Washington University. And my background is as a classroom educator. I have taught everything from pre-K to 7th grade, and as well as adult ESL instruction. I also focused on peer-to-peer instructional coaching during my teaching career and focused on most recently 7th grade math, social studies, and social emotional learning. So I love this age group for being able to integrate some of these consumer skills. I think it's a really timely age to start introducing this topic to them. My contact information is on this slide and others. You're always welcome to get in touch if there's anything I can do to help you with your financial education needs. And I'd like to refer to myself as a financial wellness work in progress, as I really view financial wellness as the goal of financial education, where our finances are in harmony with all the other parts of us that make up our overall wellness. I think that is really my overarching aim, to give the confidence and empower our students with that knowledge. A little bit about us at the Financial Education Public-Private Partnership. We were established by legislative mandate in 2004. And you can see here a timeline of how we have grown over the last 20 years. So Washington State has been investing in financial education for quite a while. We have set responsibilities that include reviewing financial education instructional materials. We also have put those materials in sort of a clearinghouse of resources, if you will, on our website, www.fep.org. We provide professional development and training opportunities like the one you are participating in now. And we also facilitate an exciting grant opportunity if your district is looking to increase the amount of financial education that they are offering. That would be something you'd want to check out on our website. And as we move forward, we're going to talk today about consumer skills. We're going to look at really consumer skills for the younger generations, our students, or the next generation up from our students. How differences in the digital age, social media, and influencers in particular have impacted our financial decision making. We'll talk about some classroom activities. I will walk you through some classroom lessons and activities on all different types of topics here: social media, spending, influencer culture, subscription services, dark patterns, and the economic way of thinking. But while our learning objectives are important, let's talk also just briefly about the consumer skills I'm hoping we will focus on developing in your students through this webinar. So we're going to talk about recognizing the role of social media in spending. We are going to talk about how to identify and recognize advertising and marketing strategies that influence us as consumers, understanding that the best way to arm ourselves against these strategies is just to be able to recognize them. Understand influencer marketing, that it exists and why it works. And then also to be aware of subscription costs and dark patterns. So we have a lot of topics to get through today. And like I mentioned, just in case we don't get through everything, we will have all of this material available for your upload later. So I'm going to launch a Zoom survey. So 2 questions should show up for us here in this Zoom poll. So if you wouldn't mind, as we get started, I would love to talk about how our spending experiences will compare to the spending experiences our students will have. And I know we're not a big group, but if you would indulge me and just answer the questions, the 2 questions there, I would appreciate it. Thank you. So we have our list of our generations. I know I identify as a millennial. And Linda, we were talking about this before the webinar started, and I asked you how you're not in the classroom, but I asked you compared to how you grew up and your spending experiences and learning about money, how you think kids today have it different. Do you mind sharing your answer?
Yeah, it's definitely the online portion of spending. I grew up in the era of Christmas catalogs and um, going to the local store to do all my spending. So there wasn't the online, like you said, the endless catalog of online spending.
I remember getting really excited about Christmas and catalog season. That was, if anyone else can connect to that, it was like one of the best times of the year when I was a kid. But what we were saying earlier is that being online today is kind of a nonstop catalog. I mean, Amazon is just a catalog at your fingertips, the biggest catalog you can imagine at all times. So that definitely has a huge impact. And I would add on that social media to me would probably be the biggest difference, that entertainment and connection and shopping have now become so intertwined. When I was a kid, they were still intertwined, but it was walking around the local mall. So there was a lot of physical action and it was very, concrete and tactile. And now you can sit by yourself and have that experience any time of the day. So a lot of differences here. Thank you so much to everyone for answering. So I'm going to end the poll so we can kind of and share the results and we'll see. So we have baby boomer, Gen X, and then including the millennials here in our webinar today. And let's see. Some of the answers that we actually had to save money in order to make a purchase. They can spend online and spending money on gear for Roblox. Yes, the entertainment portion of that, the gaming portion of that. And there's so many more options out there and without understanding the actual cost, which I think these answers do reflect some of what we were talking about as well. So thank you, Linda. Paulette has shared in the chat that her sisters used to each circle all the toys we wanted in the Sears catalog. The Sears catalog was one of the best. Absolutely. So it's important to just recognize that we are a different generation than our students. We grew up in um, different times with different trends and different norms. And so what we're looking at now is that a lot of our students are going to be in the Gen Z if you're in middle school or high school, or Gen Alpha if you are teaching, maybe seventh grade or younger. So while we're moving forward, I'm going to reference a lot of Gen Z research, as it is the generation we have the most research on. And I think it really can key into what even younger consumers are doing with their money and their online behavior. So let's see here. Gen Z, what does research tell us about our younger generation? They are digital natives. Not only have they never known a world without the internet, they have never known a world without social media, which is an interesting shift. It's crazy to think about. They are also, and this is very big, twice as likely, two times more likely to compare themselves to others online. So this access to social media from the beginning is causing a generational impact on how they see and how they compare themselves to each other. Some surveys, including, let's see, a 2023 survey from Intuit, showed that they have the most access to financial information, again, through the internet, but they feel unprepared to utilize that information. An example would be that 64% of the Gen Zers surveyed understood that it was important to invest, but they didn't know how to do it. They would rather talk about politics, parenting struggles, sex, and infertility than money. And that is actually on par with about 50% of Americans, depending on the research that you look at. There are so many topics that I feel the younger generation has very open conversations about that maybe past generations didn't. But money is still one of the things that people find very difficult to talk about across age groups. Welcome to everybody who has joined us so far. If you wouldn't mind signing in the chat with your name and school or district, that would be fantastic. And we are so glad to have you here. Another thing, this was a quote I read about Gen Z that I liked. I thought was very appropriate for maybe this topic. They're increasingly cynical, driven by ethical causes, and chronically online. There's some interesting dichotomy there, that they're cynical but driven by ethical causes. And we will see that cause driven or passion causes are things that this generation are willing to spend money on. So just some interesting things to keep in mind about these younger generations. And as we kind of move forward, I have another little poll here for you, again in Zoom. So we wouldn't mind, you are near your computer. I would really appreciate you taking a look at the 4 different terms I have there on the screen: fintech, frictionless payment, filtered finances, and soft spending. The quiz should just be popping up asking how many of these terms you recognize. You check the box if you could define the term. And I'm going to pick on you again, Linda, because you're here. I apologize. But can you just tell me how many of those? And I know you have an advantage because you're working with us at the FEP office, but how many of these terms out of 4 do you recognize? Oh, and you're frozen. Sorry. Or I'm sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, 2. I'd say 2.
Okay, which 2, if you don't mind me asking?
I have never heard of filtered finances or fintech.
Awesome. Interesting. Okay. I got some responses in the chat as well that there are none recognized. So we're all going to learn some things today. Okay, thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and share those results. So of the folks that took the poll, we had about 20% recognized fintech, 80% recognized frictionless payments. That was definitely the most recognized. No one recognized filtered finances, and then 40% recognized soft spending. So we'll go through all of these definitions when as we go through this presentation today. But these are all terms that I came across in my research looking at social media and spending. So let's look at a couple first off. Let's look at FinTech, which is a shortened abbreviation for financial technology. We have our tap to pay cards. We have digital wallets now that allow us to tap to pay with our phones. We have mobile payment options like Apple Pay, or our P2P, person-to-person payment apps like Venmo or Zelle. Does anyone use any of these apps? If you use the FinTech, I'd be curious to know how many of them you recognize. I am guilty of a digital wallet and the tap to pay phone. I can tell you that has gotten me in trouble before because, oh, I don't have the money, but I can put it on my credit card because my credit card's on my phone. My bank actually doesn't offer tap to pay, which I think is interesting. Looks like in the comments, Venmo is very commonly used. I hope everybody knows how to be cautious and use Venmo the most responsibly. Make sure you're locking that phone and using your two-factor authentication. All right, and then frictionless payment, which a lot of you did recognize as well. It's funny, as people get more comfortable with technology, we've used it more and more for financial purposes. I mean, it started off with online banking, right? And first it was like, oh, I can see my bank account online. Then we could pay our bills online. Then we could set them for auto pay. Then we could save our cards in our browser or in our digital wallet. And now we are doing this frictional payment thing where we utilize this fintech technology to eliminate barriers to buying. And in this case, those barriers are time and physical barriers. So of course, our example is the old writing a check. I think we all probably remember check writing days. Me having to write a check for the first apartment I rent, they wouldn't accept anything else. Swiping a card made that technology obsolete because it eliminated so many barriers. The time at the cash register was a big one. People felt embarrassed while others were waiting while they wrote their check out. So then we moved to paying with a phone rather than swiping a card. It'll save you 11 seconds per transaction. They researched this. And apparently those seconds really matter. They catch up to us because we are utilizing this technology more and more. And now saving card data for that one-click checkout. Any of us do that? Again, I am guilty of this. And so many of the shopping websites and apps we use now are building this into their into their design of their site because they know that it will increase likelihood of spending. So according to research, a McKinsey survey last year, 73% of consumers had paid for something through a website on a phone or computer, or using a phone or computer to buy something. And only 4 years ago, that number was just 46%. So we're seeing a massive increase in just willingness to shop online. And again, we're raising now this next generation of digital natives who've never been without this. It's totally the norm for them. So we just want them to be aware. We want everyone to be aware, adults and kids, that frictionless technology is designed because it's been shown the less contact you have with the spending process, the faster, the less contact, the more money you will spend. And just that awareness is a great first step in building a responsible consumer. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about little treat culture, which is also, this is a trend right now. If you are on the internet, you may have seen little treat culture. So it's indulging in small, inexpensive pleasures as a reward. And reward is, subjective to everybody. This could be a reward for a tough day, or it could be a reward for just surviving day-to-day existence here in 2024. But in general, we're talking about when the idea of splurging, kind of, right? The idea of treating yourself, of meeting an emotional need by buying yourself something that brings you joy. Again, that word treat. Sometimes even just spending more money than usual on something for yourself. So that is kind of relating to splurging was very common. That's a term that I would have used, right? Or heard a lot in pop culture when I was growing up. We're not really doing splurging now for the younger kids. They don't, it's not really just, I mean, it's term, but again, little treat culture, self-care is also really popular for my generation. That's not really a term anymore. Um, and then this soft life movement, I think is so interesting. So soft life is a lifestyle movement. It embraces comfort and low stress living, prioritizes personal growth, mental wellness, and then it has reflected and extended into approaches to saving. So we talk about soft life, soft saving, a softer approach to um, kind of the hustle culture that maybe defined the last couple decades. It focuses on saying less for the future and more for the present. So the idea is to enjoy the life you have now, slow down, relax, treat yourself, as opposed to putting away a lot for the future. And even as I'm saying it, I can hear some flaws in this logic, right? But really, I think what we want to recognize is that soft saving reflects a generation that values experiences and would rather spend money on experiences. They value causes, movements, being a part of social movements and change, and they really strive for emotional connection. This is also a rejection of, like I said, that hustle culture, um, girl boss, um, what was it, the FIRE movement? So financially independent, retire early. As you may have seen in some trends or some articles or commentary on the workplace habits of some of the younger generations, there is a real shift in wanting to reject some of the standards, the cultural standards or norms of the past. And this is kind of one of them. So again, the soft saving, it's a reflection of something that we see a lot, which is every generation likes to spend money. This is just this generation's iteration of it. It actually started with this cute little meme, as far as I can tell, or this little tweet, I don't even know. The problem with thinking it's been a really tough week, why shouldn't I get myself a little treat? Is that it's been at least 53 rough weeks in a row, and the amount of little treats I now require to feel baseline happy is accelerating at a terrifying pace. A lot of people connected with that, and as internet trends do, it kind of grew from there. So we looked at some of the data. I looked at some of the data here on splurging. Again, treating yourself, soft life, whatever you want to call it, little treat culture, whatever we want to talk about. Are we still doing it in these economic times? We know that it's been a lot of struggle for a lot of people. As I'm explaining this, as you can see on my slide, I do have one more little Zoom, a splurging survey that I am going to go ahead and launch if you want to take a look at that while I am explaining this slide. So this is a survey from the Deloitte Insights, Deloitte, I may be saying that incorrectly. They looked at global respondents to ask them about whether or not they had made at least one purchase to treat themselves in the last month. So as you can see, 77% of global consumers bought themselves something to treat themselves, even though 42% think they can afford that indulgence. So we see that even though we know that times are tough, people are continuing to spend money on themselves and to meet emotional needs, again, stress relief, whatever it may be, through spending. Younger and wealthier consumers are maybe likely to treat themselves, but high levels of splurging happen across age and income groups. So that is one of the things we can see here down towards the bottom, the income Across low, medium, and high income groups, we had the same, kind of a clustered group around where their percentage points for spending would be. So my question for you was, where do you think our generations will land on? You have which generation do you think splurges the most? Which one do you think splurges the least? So you can select or match up the generation with the percentage, the amount that you believe they splurge. Some other takeaways from this research that I thought was interesting, we just want to make sure we're aware of as educators when we're looking at this content. We tend to look at splurging or spending as a female activity, but men across this study splurged just as much, and in some cases spent more per indulgence than female counterparts. And we also tend to eat and drink our treats, which is, I think, very, very true for me. I am a coffee girl. So I definitely drink a lot of both my calories and my treats. And that splurges, what we perceive as like a splurge or a little treat, has really changed over the years. These are sizable purchases. As you can see, we're looking at a $32 median. So that is not in every case like a $5, beverage or a candy bar at the grocery store. This can be something else entirely. Although I'm having a hard time in the moment thinking of something $32 that I would splurge. Maybe a pair of shoes at Target. Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. And then let's see here. This should take away. Oh, I didn't. Sorry about that. Well, I can tell you, apologies. It goes basically in reverse order. The generation, this little box was supposed to fade away, and my animation is letting me down. But the generation Z is most likely followed by millennials, then Gen X, and then baby boomers at 70%. So 85% was our younger generation is the most likely to spend, even though that wouldn't necessarily be the most logical thing. They have been maybe earning income the least amount. They maybe have more expenses, although maybe not family level expenses, but they are still spending the most. And there's a point in the chat that it would be interesting to look at things like, if we could look at this almost in cohorts, did baby boomers spend as much as millennials when they were that age group, kind of across those generations? That would be such interesting data to look at if we had it. I agree. So interesting things or important things to remember about shopping and science of shopping. And we know that kids start to understand what shopping is as an activity, as a verb, around 3 years old. They recognize this, the connection between, getting things for money, going out, making purchases. So we have recently, through research, I say we, the collective we, science has refined their knowledge of when the brain releases dopamine in relationship to a reward. And the brain is going to release that dopamine, that feel-good neurotransmitter, in anticipation of the reward, not necessarily when the reward is received. So we see that that's kind of explains why online shopping is so popular, because it creates a lot of anticipation waiting for that purchase to arrive. And we want our students to recognize that chasing dopamine rushes through shopping can lead to addiction, the same way that chasing dopamine rushes through other unhealthy behaviors like drugs or gambling can lead to addiction. It's the same sort of process that can lead to spending problems, which can lead to all other sorts of financial kind of traumas and in the future. So it's just good to be aware that we want to keep spending on the level of kind of red light or red flag indicators of someone's behavior. Like if you observe that, that can be a sign that, oh, we're chasing something through the act of spending that we need to address on maybe a social and emotional level. So I thought it would be important to add in a list of ways to avoid maybe that impulse spending or extra spending, some strategies to avoid blowing the budget. So these were the most commonly named strategies as I kind of read through, again, researching for this webinar. Making a list and sticking to it. This was referenced most frequently in relation to groceries, but I think it can go with anything else. They noticed with grocery shopping, if you have a list and you stick to it, you will spend significantly less than if you go in without a list. And of course, don't go to the grocery store hungry. That is actually mentioned quite a bit in good advice for sticking to budgets and avoiding that impulse shopping. Don't save your card numbers on your internet browser, your websites, your phone, your shopping apps. If you have to type in that little number every single time you buy something, it literally creates a barrier, that time barrier, that effort barrier to have you decide if you really want the item or not. And removing those options from your phone, which make them even simpler and less buttons to touch than on a computer. They have also identified that a lot of shopping happens late at night. Online shopping happens late at night, and from social media late at night. So sort of the inference there is that people are shopping from bed. So if that is something that you do, we know good sleep hygiene says to keep your phone away from your nightstand anyway. So an added bonus to not having that phone there would be avoiding those shopping impulses. Unsubscribing from sales texts and emails. We'll see later that actually can create sort of a cognitive bias where you feel like you have to respond or do something. And then being aware of tactics that advertising and marketing, teams and industries use to try to influence us. And we'll go into some more of those as we move through. So any questions so far? If not, we're going to talk about social media spending and influencer marketing. Awesome. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the differences in social media and how these younger generations use social media. I remember when Facebook first came out. I remember when my college was allowed into it because you had to sign up and be approved. And it was strictly community and maybe some entertainment, as far as like I joined a group and that was entertaining, or you could poke someone and that was entertaining, but really it was just community. That was a big thing. But nowadays things have moved so fast that this generation is using social media not just for community and entertainment, but for news, all their information, discovery of both facts, hobbies, products, obviously for commerce, and also for customer service, which I thought was so interesting. I encountered this recently. I was trying to contact a company that did not have a customer service phone number. They wanted me to message them on Instagram. And I could not get over the feeling that that was just not legitimate. Like, why would that be the only way for me to reach customer service? Lo and behold, I did it and it worked. But it is just another way to show social media is everything now. It's all encompassing. And so according to the 2024 Social Media Content Strategy Report, 91% of Gen Z social media users are on Instagram, and another 86% are on TikTok. And so there's a lot of research showing if you're on one, you're really likely to be on the other. And we know that so many of these apps are owned by the same parent companies. So there's a lot of overlap between, but as you can see here, the three in our icon on our graphic that we're looking at are TikTok is that top symbol, in case you didn't know, the one that looks like a music note, for product discovery, then Instagram's little camera and Facebook's icon. So we see that 77% of the Generation Z users in this specific study found new products to buy on TikTok. I have a feeling I kind of know the answer to some of these questions as I am going to ask it. But does anybody here use TikTok? I'm just curious. So other things that brands are starting to recognize about social media, this product discovery aspect. There's an increase in influencer trust. There's an increase, again, in that word cynicism. And there's an increase in digital burnout. So again, there's some interesting dichotomies here. We're trusting our influencer friends, but we are burned out on technology. This generation is searching for connection. And they, especially through the pandemic, these kids that have been living through the pandemic, they went for, a year plus without connection. So where are they finding these connections in a digital world? They're finding them through influencers. That is where the connection is coming from. And as we can kind of see, I kind of guessed, we do not have any TikTok users here in the chat. So that's totally fine. What we're going to do, though, is kind of make the assumption that a lot of your students do have it. I know for my middle schoolers, between TikTok and Snapchat, it was a pretty close tie between which one was the most popular, and it would really be trending depending on what was happening too, in pop culture spheres of the day. So let's look at a resource. Let's look at something that you could use with your students. This is a high school resource, but I think it's completely appropriate for middle schoolers as well. This comes from Next Gen Personal Finance, and it's called one of their FinCap Fridays or Financial Capability Friday units. So this, as you can see, is a ready to go kind of lesson activity, warm up, primer. You could really use it however you wanted. You can download it as Google Slides or as a PowerPoint, and they have essentially put all the questions and links right there for you. It starts us out with a Kahoot or an Edpuzzle. It's up to you. You can choose which one you want to do. Then they'll have you watch a FinCap Friday video where they'll explain the topic a little bit more and then give you some discussion prompts, which you can see some of the discussions here. So I have a interactive sort of activity set up for us as opposed to a Kahoot, which is a Mentimeter. And so we're going to go through and talk about, I get it, you guys. I'm also not on TikTok, just for the record. So I don't think anybody in this webinar right now uses TikTok. But as I mentioned, it's very, very popular for all ages and especially for shopping. So I'm going to show you on here how to access our interactive survey. So if you have a phone with you, you can use your phone to open up the camera and scan the QR code that is on the screen. That should pop up, and then you see that picture of the phone, that should be exactly what pops up. And that's literally the question. I know we've already answered it, but it's just sort of like our placeholder question over here is, just let me know, do you have TikTok, which is the one that both apply to you. So the idea here is we'll move through the questions that are included in the TikTok Made Me Buy It kind of intro primer. We will learn some things from those questions. And in a moment, I will switch our screen over here and we will look at the answers in real time. So awesome. Thank you. So many people are already on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch my screen now. And Linda, if you could just let me know that we're looking at the right thing here. Or actually, hold on, I lost Linda. All right. Can we see the Mentimeter screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So as we can see, I have one person in here who has TikTok and has purchased something from the app. But most of us don't have TikTok, and that's fine. Okay, so now the next question should be showing up on whatever screen you're using to look at it. Oh, I'm sorry. Linda, if you want to join at menti.com. I'm sorry if anyone else had trouble with the QR code. So here's a question for you. Which of these things all went by all of these following things went viral on TikTok except the pink stuff, Pop It toys, feta cheese, or the penny? So we'll see. So which one of these things did not go viral on TikTok? And again, I do think in a Kahoot situation with your students, they would probably know the answers to these very quickly. Awesome. Okay, so we'll go ahead and show the correct answer, and it was the penny. Nice job. The penny has never gone viral. Apparently, feta cheese has. I missed that, but I did know about the pink stuff. That's cleaning goo. Okay, videos. Next question should be showing up on your screen. Videos with the TikTok made me buy it hashtag. Hashtag TikTok made me buy it. Have how many total views on the app? And this was as of January 2022. So it is almost 3-year-old data. But we'll go ahead and give it a guess. What do you think? As you can see, we have a color-coded graph here creating our answers. Most of us are thinking about about 100 million. The pink is our most popular answer. Ooh. Let's go ahead and check a look at the correct answer, which was 8.4 billion. Guys, that's how many. I mean, and you got to remember, TikTok is global, but TikTok made me buy it is a massive cash cow right now. TikTok shop. Okay, so what was the total amount of consumer spending on TikTok for 2021? So again, we're dealing with a little bit of older data. One way you could update this if you wanted to do this activity with your students is go through the lesson the way NGPF has designed it and then give them some independent research time to update and research the data on what are the 2023 totals for the TikTok shop. Awesome. We have, let's see, 2 guesses at 2.3 billion, 2 guesses at 3.3, and then 3 guesses at 4.3. Let's see. It was in the 2.3 billion. Thankfully, not the highest answer, but still a shocking amount of money. So if you did have TikTok, if your kids have TikTok or your sister, niece, nephew, students, coworker, how many times a day do you think they open that TikTok app? And yes, we can track this. And of course, yes, they do, because they want to know the best way to get you to open it multiple times. 10. We did a little reverse largest to smallest answer here. So let's see. It was 8. 8. So we're looking at 8 times a day per average. But again, we know this data is a little old. I would be interested to see if it was different now. And I believe this is the last question. What percent of TikTok users confess to purchasing a product after seeing it reviewed or promoted in the app? And let's be real, the reviewing and the promoting, that's that influencer culture that we're talking about as well. Awesome. So it looks like most of us are thinking 49%. That's a big jump between 49 and 79. So let's see here. Yep, 49%. So just about half of those people opening the app 8 times a day have purchased something off of the app. And I know I don't have TikTok. My probably guilty pleasure is Instagram. So I know I have purchased something. Oh, we're not going to get to this one just yet. I'm going to have you, if you see that, what subscription services do you pay? We are going to come back to the Menti. We are going to answer that one in a little bit, but now we're going to shift back to the PowerPoint. Thank you so much for your participation with our Mentimeter. I always enjoy that interactive tool. So as I was saying, so that is what you kind of go through with the TikTok made me buy it. Now let's watch the, oops, should come up here.
Gen Studio
All right, sorry, the video is not showing up the way I had hoped it would. We do have other videos. So the FinCap Friday video is hosted by Miss Be Helpful, or Yaneli Espinal, who is one of the NGPF instructional coaches and hosts. It's a short, like 4-minute video, talks about all the things that we just went through on the Mentimeter, just talks about the different data about how many different people are accessing TikTok, TikTok Shop. And then again, we have these discussion prompts. I think it would even be interesting. One time we were doing an advertising lesson, and granted, I hadn't known this group we had a great relationship with this group. So, classroom management is everyone's own thing, but I did let them look at their social media for like a couple minutes and look at an ad and be like, well, would you buy something this? Why not? What did you like about it? What do you notice it? So there's a lot of opportunity on their own feeds to see, look at why or how they're deciding to buy things online. So let's look at why or how they're deciding to buy things online. So remembering that this is a generation of those digital natives, they crave connection. And so influencer marketing is like this perfect storm of psychology and, behavioral economics, really. Influencer marketing did not exist 10 years ago. And in 2023, there was 26 billion spent on influencer marketing in the United States, which is crazy. Again, we always know we're never, what jobs we're preparing our students for in the future. But I don't think that the teachers of a couple decades ago thought they were preparing their students to be influencers, but here we are. So they tap into psychological needs that we all need. And influencers, just because, the younger generation is the most impacted by them, does not mean influencers don't exist across ages. Martha Stewart, I would argue, is the original influencer. I think she's the OG, if you come down to it. She just didn't have social media at the beginning of her career. So that being said, she's the best. Thank you. I've got agreement in the chat. So these influencers tap into the need for cultural conformity, right? Run with the pack, consume like the pack, look like the pack, sound like the pack. They tap into the need for personal connection because with the amount of time that our young people spend online, they start to trust influencers at levels that mirror actual real life relationships. So there's this trust we're embedding in them. And then they also tap into our desire to help others, kind of like that psychological nudge to, oh, they sent me a text for a coupon, I better use it, right? You can help your influencer, quote unquote, friend by buying their branded product or donating money to their cause, or even just to them in some cases. So it's important for us and our students to just be aware that there is research and psychology behind the reasons why we are so invested in our influencer, in the influencers we follow. Okay, next question. Magic, social media influencers, and personal finance all have what in common? We are going to, while you're thinking about that answer, we are going to watch this short video from a show called Magic for Humans on Netflix. It is part of another NGPF consumer skills activity. I just love the video. So, and I think that for some students watching it, it would be very, very eye-opening. So here we go. Let me know, please, if there's any problems.
So, what are you gonna ask the wizard for, Pixel?
Well, I'm not sure he's such a...
Oh.
These days, you don't have to be a doctor or a magician to have power over people. Social media can give anyone the ability to influence the masses, and that influence can be quite profitable. So to find out if I have what it takes to be an influencer, I enlisted the help of 3 social media celebrities with over 6 million combined followers. Meet Griffin,
What's up, you guys?
Ditto,
Hey, guys.
and Andrew.
Hey guys, it's Andrew. It's a vlog.
We met at the World of Fruit, a selfie lover's paradise, for a lesson in influencing. So listen, I thought maybe we could scroll through my feed a little bit. Maybe you can give me some tips.
For sure.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I asked them to be honest with me, and I regretted it immediately.
What's the cover of this?
Cover.
Is it intriguing? Is it captivating? Are you getting an audience from it?
Hadn't thought of that. Okay. How's this? It's a hot day.
Ice Ice Baby for that?
Remember that song?
I do, yeah.
Sweet. I'd say we look très chic, right? Very cool.
Yeah.
He loves swings. My caption idea was, you are getting very sleek. They did not hold back.
This is kind of creepy.
Caption is, nothing like a tray of cold ones.
Well,
It
you're
looks
just...
a little forced, but like, it's not to the point where it's like, oh, you know?
Oh. There was a lot of constructive criticism
I don't know if I love the filter. Yeah, the filter, that's exactly what I was thinking.
and some not so constructive. And my caption was, he's channeling his inner Gallagher.
For your age demographic, I think that's...
I've always wondered, does being an influencer mean that you are less susceptible to being influenced?
Yes.
Interesting. Did you guys notice the red cloth behind here?
I did indeed.
I was here a week ago, took a selfie.
Oh.
I'll give you guys a little peek here. Just wanted to, you know, whet
an
your
ad?
appetite. Well, basically, it's going to be my first endeavor at being an influencer.
Okay.
Speaking of which, since these guys get paid to promote products, I posed a challenge. I gave them 50 unglamorous items to choose from. Gravy boat, toilet paper, whatever this is, and gave them free reign of 20 different selfie-licious rooms to snap a pic. Before I showed them my magic, I wanted to see them work their magic. I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes to start. Now, have at it.
Okay, that's not flexible.
Selfie sticks down, come on back.
Nice.
Was it fun?
It was a blast.
Yeah?
I had a lot of fun.
All right. You probably have hundreds of photos on your roll right now.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what I'd like you guys to do is each of you scroll through everything you just took and pick one photo with one product in one location that you think would make the most unique Instagram post, okay? Add a hashtag to it. Don't let each other see. And then you're all gonna post at the exact same time, okay? Ready? Post. Phones down. Is the suspense killing you guys?
I want to see it.
Before we get to that, I'm just curious. Raise your hand if you chose a pic with the stapler. Hemorrhoid donut. First aid tape. A sexy coat hanger. Raise your hand if you chose the ice cube tray.
Drama.
Wait, what? Wait.
I have questions.
Wait,
Like you.
hold on a second. Let's see. Of the many places to take a photo here, raise your hand if you posted a pic in front of the mirror wall. The disco pineapple. Big banana. Raise your hand if you chose to take a picture on the watermelon swing.
Come on.
Yeah.
Can I see the posts?
Yes, you can.
Show each other.
I don't like this.
Go.
Wait, are you kidding me?
Yeah, what? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. How does this... Wait, but that's...
Yeah, that's so interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, you're
Because I was
telling
here
me.
a week ago and I took a picture.
Yeah, you were.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure if it really was influencer worthy, but turns out it was.
No.
The ice cube tray on the watermelon swing in front of my face. The hashtag was Trey Cool. What were your hashtags?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Trey Cool.
I'm shooketh.
Well, I bet you have the same question they have.
So my question is how?
The answer's simple. I wasn't here to take a lesson in influencing. I was here to teach it. think that you are less susceptible to being influenced?
Yeah.
You love swings. You are getting very sleepy. I'd say we look trashy, right? Very cool.
Is it intriguing? Is it captivating?
Nothing like a tray of cold ones.
Ice baby for that?
Yeah.
This is kind of creepy.
My caption was, he's channeling his inner Gallagher.
Oh, I don't like this.
Gosh.
Why are you in my brain?
How does it feel to be influenced?
Confusing.
You can have confusing. Wow.
All right. So I love that video because, let's go back here. I think
These
shows that magic, social media influencers, and personal finance all have psychology in common. Influencers are just people. That's one thing that I think this video shows very well, that they are just human beings, like you or I think our younger students can sometimes kind of put them up on a pedestal, but also just really demonstrates the amount of psychology, the study of human behavior that goes into being able to influence what a person does, or in this case, what a person will purchase. So some of the marketing strategies that are common marketing or advertising strategies that work particularly well on social media for influencers who are using short form videos, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, or still images to reach their audience. A lot of scarcity mindset you'll see in online shopping to trigger that sense of urgency and high value. Obviously, scarcity mindset we see everywhere in a sale, limited time offer. I notice a lot now we do these pop-ups where not only is it, it's not even a real store, it's only going to be there for a weekend. So you have to get there and get something, or a one-time drop. They also tap into the principle of social proof, wanting to be a part of the group. Again, that longing for connection for kids that are living a lot of their lives online. And then, of course, the halo effect, where we put a little halo around anybody that we really like or admire, and that halo extends to products or other people that are admiring, that the person we admire recommends. So the positive impression of one person extends to someone or something else. We see this, celebrities have used this forever. Now we're seeing influencers do the same thing with brand deals, product lines. This is also what leads to brand loyalty, because a brand can have that halo effect over them as well. So if you're an Apple user and you are not switching to Android, no matter what anyone tells you, you may have put a little halo of brand loyalty over Apple. This is also what can give a product like cult status, which is a term they use to make it feel like, oh, again, that's that social proof. Everybody knows that this is like the product to have, the game to be playing type of thing. So here are a couple lessons on identifying advertising strategies for your students. That's a great consumer skill to have. It's very appropriate as we move into sort of the holidays, commercials for the holidays. If any of your students are sports people, there's lots of sporting events during the holidays. As we move into the new year, there's bowl games, there's a Super Bowl. You can use, once you start and the kids can identify the strategies, you can analyze commercials in all different mediums and continue that learning process. So this lesson is from the Econ EdLink from the CEE, Council on Economic Education. There we go. This is sort of a simpler lesson. I would say this is maybe like a level 1 lesson for identifying advertising strategies. They go with the famous people, right? The experts, that's sort of the authority figures. You should trust me and listen to me. Ordinary people, you connect with guys, I'm just like you. Then, of course, the music, sound effect, image, color, razzle dazzle, as I like to call it. Some of them will use humor or emotion, get you to laugh, get that connection, or maybe try to like tug your heartstrings. You know, Christmas, you always get the good, you know, I'm going to cry at the Hallmark commercial kind of thing. And then words, claims, and promises are the other way they try to identify things. So it's a pretty simple, straightforward lesson. It will link to a YouTube video that they have identified, CEE has identified 5 ads for you that are all linked together in one YouTube video. The worksheet looks like this, easy to print. As you can see, they'll show you Coca-Cola, Nike, AirPods, Tesla, and Resolve, I think the carpet cleaning one. So go through the ads, look at the strategies. You could adjust this, differentiate it to make it more or less challenging. And then actually, once you get on YouTube and you start looking at ads, they'll kick you a million different ad compilation videos. So if you don't like these examples, there's a lot of them out there. So again, just getting our students to think like a consumer, to think this ad is trying to convince me of something. What is it trying to convince me of? If your students are maybe in a high school level, or even just students who have done this basic persuasion advertising lesson before, and they would maybe be ready for a little more rigorous activity, I would recommend this lesson on advertisements and dark patterns, again, from Next Gen Personal Finance. As with the previous resource I referenced from them, everything they do is on Google. So you do need a Google email to download, but then if you use Google Classroom, you can actually upload this right on there as an activity if you want. So we're going to go through just a couple different parts of this one. Actually, for time's sake, we're going to kind of move through this one because I want to make sure we get to subscriptions, but I'll go through the different components. As you can see here, they ask the kids to talk about the last time they bought something because of an ad. And even if our students are not of an income earning age, they may be still, think about groceries, food, the cereal aisle. We buy everything because of ads. So it doesn't have to be a toy or an indulgence. There's a lot of reasons why, we buy everything from our pencil to our backpack to the brand of milk we buy. And then what about the ad is convincing? You'll look at a car commercial, and this is like a 30-second commercial. So we are going to go ahead and watch this one, but let's just think about it answering the first question. So I'll ask you guys in the chat once the commercial's over. If you drive a Toyota, according to this commercial, if you drive a Toyota, you are blank. So let's see what they have for us.
How do you make a difference? Hybrid was 20 years ahead of its time, and few believed. Now millions of Toyota hybrids burn less fuel and deliver cleaner air, so everyone benefits. And while the rest race to catch up, we race ahead to a future where harmful emissions could be a thing of the past for our children's children. Toyota, built for a better world.
Well, there you have it. Can I pick on you one more time, Linda? If you drive a Toyota, according to that commercial, you are, give me an adjective.
Green conscious.
You're green. Oh, I like that. If anyone else has an answer to pop into the chat, I would love, saving the world, responsible answers in the chat. Agree. I was going to say, like, you're a good person. Apparently you get that sense from this, right? They want you to believe you. If you care about the environment, if you are green, you are driving a Toyota, right? So, so there's additional questions that the students can dig into regarding that commercial. Again, easy to repeat with additional commercials down the line. Then they want you to reference an article. This part is not my favorite. And so I just put it up here on a slide. So instead of kind of digging through sort of a messy online website article, you can just look at the 6 ways of influence this lesson identifies, which is very similar in some ways to the other lesson, but in other ways it focuses less on the visual components and more on the psychological components. So that's what I meant by kind of a leveled and a little bit more rigorous. So again, we have authority. Trust me, I'm the expert. Commitment and consistency. So once you start saying yes to something, it's difficult to say no, even if you're saying that yes in your head, agreeing with somebody perhaps in a commercial. You know, I don't have any, you don't have enough time in the day, do you? No, I don't, you know. Social proof, again, everyone's doing it. Reciprocity bias. Someone does you a favor, so you need to repay them. Again, that's very stuck into the influencer marketing brand. It has to do with a lot of influence comes from what we feel we owe people. Liking, which is very similar to the halo effect. If you like someone, you are more likely to like what they like. You're more likely to overlook any flaws in their advice. And then again, scarcity is such a powerful impact on our decision making, really hardwired into our decision making as humans. If time pressure is created, particularly as consumers, we will go into overdrive to try to make a decision that we think is the best one for us. Time pressure created is a great way to get people to spend money. So if you think back to the Toyota ad, right? I think there was some commitment and consistency there. Like once you start saying yes, like, well, we were ahead of the time. Don't you love the planet? Don't you want things to be green? Don't you want less emissions? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Don't you want a Toyota? Yes, I do. Social proof there. And I think maybe liking some halo effect going on as well. So they give you some additional questions within this article as well, like I said, to dig into more. Gives you a frame of reference you could use with your students throughout the rest of the year to analyze influence, not only in online media, print media, and even face-to-face interactions. Like if you want to talk about buying a car, you're going to see a lot of these influences in sales as we talk about jobs and earning income. Some of these, you know, what is that book? Ways to win friends and influence people. Famous book, yeah. Okay, so with our last couple little bit of time here, we are going to talk about subscription services and dark patterns. We were going to go back to the Mentimeter, and I think we're going to. So if you guys wouldn't mind, if you still have it on your phone, you should be able to just open that screen right back up. And I'm hoping what you're seeing now is what subscription services do you pay for. So we're going to talk about monthly subscriptions. If you're more comfortable just typing it into the chat and don't really want to mess with the Mentimeter thing, I completely understand that. But with the Menti, as we are looking at the live responses here in a moment, like I said, you can submit multiple responses. You can do 1 subscription per response. So I, for example, subscribe to Spotify, Crime Junkie, Patreon, and Disney Plus/Hulu. So I could enter in 3 different ones. But the idea also is that the larger a word appears on the Mentimeter, the more times it has been entered. So kind of see what we have so far. Go ahead and share our live Mentimeter here. And yep. So we've got Spotify, Peacock, YouTube. Oh, YouTube Premium. I didn't even think about that one when I was coming up with ones. Amazon, yeah. TV, yes, Disney Plus. Again, I have Disney Plus as well. TV subscriptions. I think I already said that one. Ooh, Marco Polo. I don't even know what Marco Polo is. Do you see how we have 3 Amazons on there? That's kind of amazing. Oh, Disney Plus showed up twice because one person put a space between it and one person didn't. So there we go. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate looking and seeing what people. So it looks to me, just by observation, I'm going to say streaming services, whether they're music or movies or TV, it looks like, seems to be the most common streaming activity here in this group, which is very interesting. So let's go back to another quick NGPS sort of pre-made activity. Hopefully you are, let's see here, looking at the right screen again. And so these are one of their questions of the day. Again, just there are 3 slides. I'm going to show you each of the 3 slides. You pop them up and they give you some background. You can have discussion, but how much do you think the average consumer spends per month on subscription services? If you had to throw out a number, I keep picking on you, Linda, I'm sorry, but if you had to throw out a number, you can just give me a thumbs up or, yeah, go ahead.
$200.
Do you know how much you spend on subscriptions?
Probably.
You think you do?
Yeah.
John's guessing $55 in the chat. I appreciate your guess, John. You said a couple hundred. You were actually really close. $219 per month on subscription services. And another fun little classroom activity would be to see how many of these logos they could identify on this screen. Because I got to tell you, I don't know what some of these are, and it's driving me crazy. I reckon, obviously, we recognize some of them, but not all of them. So how many of these are in your house? Again, this is a great discussion, too. How many does a person need? And they'll give you a couple of these follow-up questions that you can use to have discussions with your students. What's essential? What's considered a luxury? I remember when internet was considered a luxury, guys, right? And that is absolutely not considered the case anymore. So this is a great time to talk about what is a need versus a want too, probably with students. You know, Netflix is not a need. It's important to establish that. So this is a great resource. And I think it's important, especially moving forward in sort of the way subscription services have really started taking over. We want to prepare our students to be aware and evaluate these subscription services, whether we need them. But the thing about it is that when I looked at this activity, it really didn't tell the whole story. And the whole story was, this was a 2022 survey. They did a bunch of respondents, and those people had 10 seconds to estimate the number of subscription services they had and how much those cost them every month. 10 seconds, which is a lot of people in 10 seconds might not do the best job, right? So then later, the same consumers broke down their individual monthly payments for each subscription service, streaming, apparel, cosmetics, food, and other categories. So not only did they underestimate the amount that they were paying, they underestimated the total number of subscriptions they had too. Their first estimate was 86 was the average. The actual spend was $219. Mentally, we as consumers are not counting all these different subscriptions that we are subscribing to in the way that we're mentally, budgeting or keeping account of our money. So they underestimated by $130, almost 2.5 times more than their original estimate. And then look across all age groups, consumers are paying for services they have forgotten about. Because I'm going to assume if you forgot that you're paying for the subscription, you're not using the service, right? I remember once I downloaded an app that would take a picture of a plant and identify it for me because I just moved into my house and I wanted to know what was in the garden. And somehow I got signed up for a subscription service and they had charged me weekly $7.99 almost for 5 weeks before I noticed the charge on my bill. I was absolutely not taking pictures of plants for 5 weeks. I can tell you that.
I subscribe to that, Amy, just so you know.
Do you? I better use it, Linda, or cancel that subscription. So, and we know too, it used to be a great consumer skill to share subscription services like Sarah is talking about in the chat. And then recently Netflix and others streaming services started cracking down on how many IP addresses could access one account. So it's constantly a push and pull between consumers and these companies and these products offering services. How do we get the best deal for us, right? But also make sure we are aware of what we are paying for. So this is something I think all consumers want to be aware of. But plus, we know part of the problem is it can be really difficult to cancel some of these subscription services as well. So this is just a quick question. We have a chart here. I'm even going to give you hints. We're talking about subscription services. That's the topic. On our x-axis, we have 2016 through 24, sorry. So the last nine-ish years, 8 years, quarter one, or whatever that's worth. And on the left, we have number of subscribers in the millions. Any ideas? Any guesses? What would the name of this chart be? As a math teacher, this is a game I used to love to play with my students. Throw up a chart, take off the label, and see if they can figure out what it is. For time's sake. Oh, Denise in the chat came through. Amazon. You notice I said something previous to this slide about being difficult to cancel. That is also a hint. Let's see here. Yep. This is the number of Amazon Prime members in the United States. And we can see how Amazon Prime has increased their membership subscription service drastically, both in the pandemic and through it, beyond it, right? So some facts about Amazon Prime, if you don't subscribe, although it was pretty big on our Mentimeter there. $140 a year, or you can pay monthly, $15 a month. And then your main perks are like the 2-day shipping and the video, Amazon Prime video. And is it music as well? I don't use it, so I don't know. We might get music as well. Here's what we know. As with other subscription services, Prime subscribers tend to spend more on Amazon. You're spending for the subscription. It's like Costco or Sam's Club. You know, you're paying for the membership. You might as well go there and spend the money there. And membership fees account for $25 billion of this company's annual revenue. So, of course, they have absolutely no interest in really helping you get out of that membership, right? So we have here, let's see here. I'm just going to show the very beginning part of this video on dark patterns, specifically as it relates to Amazon and subscriptions.
Building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up.
Dark patterns are features of interface design crafted to trick users into doing things that they might not want to do, but which benefit the business in question. Here's an example. Have you ever tried to delete your Amazon account? Here's the Amazon homepage. What's the first thing you might think to do? The obvious place to look is the account dropdown here. Once you're in here, you look around, it's a lot of information, but if I'm interested in deleting my account, I think that your account is probably a good place to go. Once I'm on this page, there's a lot more information, payment options, login and security, and a bunch of stuff down here. Unfortunately, you could click every link on your account page, but none would deliver you to a place where you could actually delete it, because it's not here. In order to actually delete your Amazon account, you have to go all the way down to the bottom of the page, and under Let Us Help You, click Help. Once you're in here, you have to navigate to Need More Help because, putting it on this page would just be too easy. Then click Contact Us. This is where it starts to get ridiculous. It's still nowhere to be seen, but of the 4 options on the top that you want help with, click Prime or something else. You want the something else. In this Tell Us More About Your Issue dropdown, there's still nothing that suggests account deletion. You just have to know to click Login and Security. And then in a second dropdown, there it is. The magic button, close my account. Except in order to actually do that, you now have to have a chat conversation with an Amazon associate who's going to tell you all the reasons account deletion is a bad idea. See, you can't delete the account yourself. They have to do it for you. This is a dark pattern, a crappy user experience that intentionally makes it difficult, almost impossible without help, to do something that hurts Amazon. UX specialist Harry Brignall categorizes this specific kind of dark pattern as a roach motel, a design that makes it very easy for you to get into a situation, but very hard to get out.
So if you were to continue watching the video, it would talk more about additional dark patterns that you would probably recognize in a lot of the online games. And that's why I think this is a great thing to go over with kids, especially if they're in that Roblox or, other gaming era. It talks a little bit about how they'll use colors and elements like that within the game to maybe trick you into buying credits when you didn't mean to, or to keep playing even when you were ready to stop. So dark patterns are one of the reasons why it's difficult for us to get in or to get out of subscriptions, and why it can affect our costs so much. And again, like, subscriptions are so prolific now that they offer them for literally everything. I feel like we're, as adults, talking about streaming, and although that's very relevant for kids too, but maybe like Amazon Prime, but like these Roblox, these Xbox game passes, app stores, they all offer subscription services. So just because we aren't aware of what they all might be for the younger ones doesn't mean that they don't exist. So being aware of dark patterns is a really great consumer skill to be aware of, for anybody who uses the internet. They're built into everything. And then some basic, knowledge, especially for our students in high school who may be earning income. So looking at little strategies to stay ahead of their subscription costs and not let that be the thing that overdraws them, using calendar alarms and things like that. And then avoiding new subscriptions. The very best way to do that is, again, don't save your payment information on your device. Which at this point, I mean, as an iPhone user, Apple makes it difficult to sign up and log into your phone without completing. They'll tell you you've made an error if you haven't finished filling out that information. So one cool thing, and if you're looking for a way to integrate current events as well into your classroom, is that the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, is one of those agencies that exists to protect consumers. And they released a rule actually last month called Click to Cancel. And in it, they said that online subscriptions need to require the same number of clicks to end the subscription as it does to sign up for the subscription. And that in-person signups need to have an option to cancel online or over the phone. I think that's really important. I remember one time I got talked into a car wash subscription. This is when I was living in Arizona. People wash their car all the time. It gave me the sticker on the dash, and I would like walk, just drive through. And I had to actually cancel the debit card in order to cancel the subscription, because they didn't have customer service. It was like a total roach motel, dark pattern situation. And the only way I could get out of it was to cancel the whole card and get it reissued again. And so I like the idea of students not having to go through that same experience as they navigate, their post-secondary. I know it is crazier. There's a comment in the chat that it's easier to cancel a card than it is an account, but hopefully now with these new moves, that won't be the case forever. Although I would also mention that the FTC sued Amazon in 2023 for tricking customers into buying Prime memberships that were purposefully hard to cancel. So that's another interesting impact if you wanted to talk about Amazon. And then also, just to make sure that I'm looking at both sides of this issue, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce actually opposes this initiative. They say that the agency is trying to micromanage business decision, and they think this latest move would increase costs for consumers. So again, it's current events, it's personal finance, it's being aware of the fact that these services are only going to continue to increase, to be out there. So we want our students to be aware of it for their post-secondary success. And then the last thing I have kind of for us today is this game that you can play with your students. And honestly, if you wanted to, you could click in there right now and take a look at it. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat as we're wrapping up here if you wanted to take a look at it. But this is an online game that is you trying to not accept the terms and conditions. So we're looking at consumer skills, and this way is sort of like protecting your data, right? Don't just give away your data. All of them want your data. All of them want you to say, accept the cookies. You know, this is kind of a twist on that side of the consumer skill kind of range. But it is comically difficult at times, even for adults. If you do it, as we're wrapping up here in the last 5 minutes, I'd love to know how far you get. I'm briefly just going to talk about one more lesson that, because I think we do have some people here in middle school as well. Okay, so one more lesson that will be on the resource, within the resource package that you have access to after this, is going to be from the Council for Economic Education's Financial Fitness for Life. It's going to be on the economic way of thinking. And this is a middle school lesson that is going to kind of come back to basics as far as looking at opportunity cost. Okay, so if you're like, great, this is good, these were all great for my students to learn what not to do, but I could really use something with my kids to learn what to do when they're looking at making consumer decisions. This would be a great lesson that kind of would introduce those topics. So it's going to talk about the economic way of thinking as sort of just going through a process to look at, evaluate the opportunity costs of a decision before we make it, essentially. So the opportunity cost being the next best thing that is given up. And so this one, let me see here. I'm going to kind of slip through. So, and it shows just time is limited and resources are scarce and people have to make choices. So we look at opportunity costs and just recognize that we cannot have everything we want, and every choice we make, we do give something up. Took the lesson and put it into PowerPoint format for everybody. So they have some activities like this, you know, Chandra's mother's birthday is coming up. She would like to buy her mom a necklace, but the one she likes costs more than what she had saved. So great opportunities for discussion, right? We have a personal finance question here. Chandra is our consumer, but she has to make a choice here. What are some of her options? What choice should she make? And then what did she give up with that choice? So these are lessons that will sort of focus on that area. And I hope that that is helpful for those of you who may be looking for something, like I said, to point students in a good direction for using a process for making consumer decisions. And with that, we are, oh, hold on there really quick. Sorry, I have a final slide, I promise. With that, I am going to move towards wrapping it up, though. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for taking the time to be here. Goodness. Oh dear, the technical issues at the end. I apologize. I'm just going to go ahead and stop sharing there. That was not working out for me. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, let's see if we can get this to come up here. Yay. All right, so thank you so much for being here. Please let us know how we did in the survey that you will receive. Thank you again. I recognize that it is a very busy time of year, so I appreciate your time and your participation. We have 2 more webinars coming up before the end of the year. We're going to be building a classroom economy on December 5th and talking about housing, specifically housing in Washington. From rent to roommates is going to be on December 12th. I'm really excited about that one. So with that, I will go ahead and stop the recording and say thank you so much again for being here and have a great evening.